Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be planting vegetables in the Veggie Garden. But we're not only planting them, we're also harvesting them, which is causing special actions to happen, which means we're going to be messing with our opponents. Today we're talking about Veggie Garden. This is for 2 to 4 players. It's from Quick, Simple, Fun Games. Now today we're going to be doing a rule school, so I'm going to teach you how to set up and play the game so that you can completely skip the rule book. I'm going to give you a quick overview and then dive right in, so get out the pieces and let's get going. Veggie Garden is a tactical game for 2 to 4 players where over 6 rounds you'll be collecting different vegetables. Those vegetables will be scoring you an amount of points based on the post that it's next to on the outside ring, but watch out for that bunny, it makes that vegetable 0, so does all the compost in the middle. Turns is simple, you'll be taking one vegetable, doing an action, and then keeping it secret from your opponent for the end game. And those actions are allowing you to swap cards from your hand from the vegetable, swapping different vegetables, swapping how much they're worth, moving them into the compost, and manipulating the board to try to get the most points at the end. The game has a lot of variability because each game you're only selecting 5 of the 6 available vegetables, and as you see they all do different things. And also the board has a variable setup where it's different every game along with where the different posts start. So this game's all about tactics, looking a few moves ahead, and trying to collect the vegetables that you're going to try to make worth the most at the end of the game. To set up, you'll take each of the 6 different vegetable tiles, you'll lay those out. You'll also lay out each of the cards of that vegetable. This is a stack of all cabbages, all peppers, and so on and so forth from the veggie cards. Then you'll select 5 of these 6 tiles to be played this game. You could do it randomly or you could pick which 5. In this case, let's say we're not going to play with the peas, so the veggie cards of all the peas and the peas tile can go back in the box. You won't need it this game, so we'll be using these 5 tiles and all the veggie cards of those. You'll then take each of these cards now and you'll shuffle them into one big deck. You'll then take the 12 numbered fence posts like this, and then you flip them over and randomize them. If you're playing with the carrots, you'll now take one of these face down random ones and remove it back into the box. You won't need it this game, and you'll have a bunny here. You will then flip this over and randomize these as well. You will then take the veggie card deck and place 1 card in each of the 16 spots on the board. Next, you'll take the 12 fence posts that you randomized at the beginning of the game, and you'll also randomly place those around the 12 fence posts around the board. Again, if you're playing with the carrots and the bunny is in there, you can then replace the fence post bunny with this white bunny token to make it easier to see, and you can place this token back in the box. You won't need it for the rest of the game. You'll then place all the veggie cards face down in a big deck near the board, and you'll simply flip up the top 4 cards. Each player will also receive 2 face-down veggie cards from the deck, which they'll keep secret from the other player, but they can look at them. And then we see who goes first. It's whoever most recently ate fresh vegetables. You can also place the tiles for the 5 vegetables that you selected at the beginning of the game around the board so that everybody can see and read them. The object of the game is to score the most points, and you'll be doing so by collecting these cards. If you remember, you started with 2 secret veggie cards, and each of those vegetables is going to be worth the amount of points depending on which fence post is next to that vegetable. For example, potatoes are going to be worth 3 and another 3. So if the game ended now, potatoes would be worth 6 points for each of them that you have. So each of the posts go with 1 specific vegetable all the way around the board. The 4 in the middle are compost. These will be worth 0 at the end of the game, but things are going to be changing throughout the game and manipulating where the vegetables are and which ones are on them. On your turn, you're going to take one of the 4 veggie cards that are face up in the harvest, and essentially you're going to place it right in front of you. Let's say I take the potato. So I've placed that card right in front of me, and it's along the other cards that I got secretly at the beginning of the game. These would normally be in my hand, but I placed them face down to signify that they're in my hand and the other player can't see them. I would then do the special action of this vegetable. I've brought this tile from the board over here so you could read it. This says, exchange a card from your hand with 1 in the garden. So I have a card in my hand, it's a cabbage. I will exchange with any of these cards, and let's say I exchange with that potato. And when you're done with that turn, you'll take the card that you had just placed in front of you and you put it in your hand, and I'm going to signify that as not being able to be seen by the other player. That player would then refill the harvest at the end of their turn with the top card, and it's another potato. Now, if at any point 4 vegetables of the same type are in the harvest, you would discard all these and put 4 new ones out. That's how a turn works. It would then be the next player's turn, and you would continue this until both of you have had 6 turns. Let's take a look at what the special actions do for the other vegetables. The tomato allows you to discard a veggie from the garden and replace it with one from the harvest. So in this case, I would, let's say, discard the cabbage, and I would replace it, let's say, with the carrots. These two cards would then get replaced from the top of the harvest, and it's the card that you originally took was the tomato and the one that you did there. Now, as you're discarding cards, if this ever runs out, you simply shuffle the discards to make a new pile. If I pull a cabbage card, I get to shift a row or column of either veggies or fence posts. Now, if you look at the veggies, you'll see that there are 4 different rows of them, and there's also 4 different columns of the veggies. And when you shift, you can shift it in either direction. For example, if I wanted to shift this cabbage down, this would shift down, 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 and it goes back up to the top. And conversely, if I wanted to shift this way, well, this would shift out, shift, 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 just like that. You can go in either direction, both columns or rows for the veggies. Now for the posts. We see these posts up here. Let's say you want to shift them. You have 2 rows. You have a row here, and you have a row down here. There's 2 columns, a column here and a column here. Each of those can only shift in that certain direction. So for example, this, if I wanted to shift it left, I could shift left, 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 and this one comes around to the beginning. Same thing with the ones on the bottom. On this, you shift up or down on the columns, and essentially these ones go like that. And just remember, you can only do one of those, either shift a veggie or a fence post. If you took a carrot this round, you get to basically exchange a bunny with another fence post. So here's the bunny, and let's say I swap it with this fence post. So what does this bunny do? Well, good question. I told you that each of these equal the points that it's next to. The bunny means it's 0 points, so this cabbage right now is worth 0 points at the end of the game. If you're using a pepper, you get to swap any adjacent veggie or fence post with each other. And when swapping veggies, you can do it horizontally. For example, you could swap these two. You can even do it diagonally as long as they're adjacent to each other like this. You could swap it like this, or of course you could do it vertically like this. Now for fence posts, same thing, but they have to be adjacent. For example, you could swap these two. You could also swap these two. You could even swap these two because they're adjacent to one another. But for example, you could not swap, say, this one with this one because they are not adjacent. Now we didn't play with peas during this game, but let me show you what they do. You get to move this groundhog token and then swap any 2 veggies opposite the groundhog. To set up, the first player will select one of the 4 veggies in the compost and place the groundhog there. Then when somebody activates the peas, they're going to take the groundhog and move it to one of the other 3 veggies in the compost. They are then going to take 2 veggies and swap them with each other, with it being either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. And when this happens, you take one of the cards that's in the compost and you're swapping it with one that's not in it. So for example, the groundhog's placed here. These 2 are surrounding or on the opposite sides of the groundhog vertically, and they would both swap. Carrots come out of the compost, cabbage goes in. If instead of doing it that way, you wanted to go this way, you would take the cabbage that's on one side in the compost, and you would swap it with these peppers that are outside. Again, they're just swapping like that. You can also do it diagonally. So you'd take the diagonal one from here that's in the compost, and you would swap it with the diagonal that's out of the compost, and that's what happens when you activate the peas. Essentially, all the other vegetables other than the carrots are affected by the groundhog, because usually you're exchanging, or you're replacing, or you're shifting, or you're swapping, and you can never do those things if the groundhog is involved. For example, you can't exchange with this card. You can't shift the row or a column that this guy's in. He pretty much blocks all of the abilities that you see on these vegetables. Now at the end of the 6 turns, each player is going to have 8 cards. They'd still be secret, but I have them face up here for you to see, because you start with 2 cards, plus the 6 turns is 8 cards. Now the first player will get to take one of the 4 cards in the harvest. Let's say they take the tomatoes, and that's us. We would put them secretly in our hand. We wouldn't have flipped them over yet. And we do not replace it, and the action doesn't get taken from that because it's the end of the game. And the next player clockwise would do the same. In this case, they take the tomato. And since this was a 2-player game, we'd go to final scoring. If there were more players, each player continuing clockwise would take each of these cards. So the last player has no choice and takes the last card there. So if those are my 9 cards on the right, let's go through it. So I have 3 potatoes. We look through any potatoes in the outside ring. Remember, any of the 4 in the compost area are always worth 0 points no matter what. So we have the potato here. This is worth 3 points. It's the only one around the outer ring. I have 3 of them. So 3 of these times 3 points is 9. Then we go to the peppers. I have 2 of them. These 2 are 2 plus 3 is 5. This is 2. This is 3. That's another 5. So 5 plus 5 is 10. Times 2 of those is 20. So I have 29. I have 2 cabbages. There's only 1 cabbage in the outside area, and the bunnies next to it, this is worth 0. So these 2 cabbages give me 0 points. We have the carrot here. The carrot, we have 2, 3, 5 points total, so I have a total of 34 points. Then we go to tomatoes. I have 1 of them, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so a total of 39 points for me. And after you score all the veggies individually, then you see if you have all 5 vegetables. If so, you get a 10-point bonus. In this case, I do, so my points go from 39 to 49. Everybody would do this. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into the game without wasting any time reading the rulebook and allowing you to enjoy the game faster. Now, if you have more questions about the rules at all, I have put a link in the description of this video, and that location will help you get answers by not only myself, but also possibly the publishers, the developers, and the designer of the game.